In a quiet 55 and over community in Florida, the fight did not begin with shouting in a courtroom. It began with a letter at a front door, delivered to a woman still living inside her grief. Bethany Michelle had just lost her father. The house he left behind was the house they had shared, the house where routines still felt recent, where his absence was present in every room. The message was not condolence. It was not patience. It was a warning. The Homeowners Association wanted Bethany out. And as the conflict grew, the threat became even more startling. Neighbors in the same community could be asked to help fund the legal effort to remove her. What should have been a private matter of inheritance was already becoming something larger, colder, and far more expensive. Bethany was 28 when her father died in 2023. He left her the home in Freedom at Arbor Mill, a 55-plus community in the Jacksonville area. For Bethany, that home was more than a piece of real estate. It was the last physical connection to the life she had shared with her father, a place shaped by ordinary habits that suddenly felt sacred after loss. She could have treated the property like a transaction. Sell it, move on, start somewhere else. Instead, she chose to stay. That choice turned grief into conflict. The problem was built into the neighborhood itself. Freedom at Arbor Mill was not just any subdivision. It was a 55 and over community, a place organized around age restrictions, expectations, and a very specific idea of who belonged there. On paper, the rules seemed straightforward. Occupied homes were expected to include at least one resident age 55 or older. Bethany was decades younger. To the HOA board, that age gap was not a small technicality. It was a compliance issue. The board's position was that if Bethany lived there full-time, the community risked violating the standards that helped define its status and identity. To Bethany, the situation looked very different. She was not a stranger trying to move into a restricted neighborhood. She was a daughter living in the home her father had deliberately left to her. Those two views would collide again and again, one centered on rules, the other on inheritance, loss, and intention. Before long, notices began to arrive. First came warnings, then more formal demands, then the kind of paperwork that changes the emotional temperature of a home, turning a mailbox into a source of dread. Bethany did not leave. The board did not back down. Meetings followed. Documents were exchanged. A dispute rooted in mourning hardened into a procedural battle, where every sentence carried consequences and every interpretation opened another front. Bethany and her attorney pointed to an addendum signed by her father. In their view, that document mattered because it reflected his decision about what would happen to the house after his death. The HOA drew a sharper distinction. Ownership, the board argued, was one issue. Occupancy was another. In that reading, Bethany might inherit the property without gaining the right to live there indefinitely. That was the gray area at the center of the fight. Not a simple question of who held title, but a more technical and more dangerous question. What exactly did the governing documents allow once the owner died? As that question moved from the kitchen table to legal arguments, the stakes kept rising. Behind the argument was a deeper fear shared by many age-restricted communities. If one exception stood, what else might follow? And who would decide when a rule stopped being a rule at all? Bethany's case remains unresolved, but the warning is already clear. Once HOA power is activated, one inheritance dispute can reshape an entire neighborhood.